Grace and peace and one love. If I can be heard, please type a 7. Mhm. Shalom, everyone. All right. Shalom, Janessa. Shalom, Andrea. Grace and peace. Let's begin. All praise and glory to Jahweh Abba and his son Jehoshua the Messiah, who died for our sins that we may have eternal life. Shalom, essence. Let us pray. Our Abba, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, Jah. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us for our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us out of all temptations, and protect us from all evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. In the authority and love of your Son, Jehoshua the Messiah, our Savior, we always pray, so be it. Shalom again to everyone coming in as we begin another lesson. So we're just going to get right into this topic. As you know, many people use various understandings of the name of the Most High, the Father, and the Son. As I always say, be sure that you know the Most High by keeping his commandments and by having the testimony of the Messiah and walking in love, meekness, so that we may get eternal life. This is another revelation of Jah's Almanac coming to you straight, Jah's scriptural calendar, as we deal with things from David Ray's understandings of the scriptural calendar. Today's date is the 9th day of the 12th month Adar for the year 60. Whoa, let me get that one there. It's not 6221, 20, is it? No, it's not. It's 6221. Yeah, 6221 years from creation, equivalent to January the 15th, 2022 AD. There's 3 more Sabbaths until the new year, Abib, begins. So here we are on the 9th, as you can see. And again, there's 3 Sabbaths more until we get into the new true scriptural year. I'm very excited to be able to share all these wonderful truths to strengthen you and guide us that we can meet our appointments with the Most High and his Son and the holy angels as well. They're all keeping these holy times because we're all family. So start preparing yourself. The new month, and especially Bib, is a time of cleansing, purification. And so we're going to be working on ourselves, right? Preparing ourselves for the Passover as we renew our covenant in the Messiah. So we're looking at Jah's holy cycles of time. 2nd Ezra 4 reads, By measure hath he measured the times, and by number hath he numbered the times, and he doeth not move nor stir them until the said measure be fulfilled. So this verse here lets us know that everything is numbered out by the Most High. He's calculated all his things, especially his days within his 7,000-year cycle, with his 1,556,000 days and change. These days cannot be taken to or added from, and so every calendar in the world that exists will have to always use Jah's days, even though they might want to start their calendars at different times of the year or even use the erroneous spring equinox. Shalom to all who are coming in the room. Let me just give a quick shout out again. Andrea, Janessa S, Javid, Miss Carice. Shalom, shalom, and to all those who I can't see. Again, be aware about the 7,000-year cycle, and it has 7 different types of years or cycles that are grouped into years. We're going to be focusing a lot on the 28-year cycle today. As we set a foundation last week in our lesson, today we're going to just bring it out. And this topic It's very, very important. This actually proves the Most High's calendar to the T, that doesn't matter what calendar is out there, and especially if it's a lunar, or lunisolar calendar, they all fall within Jah's creation. So we're going to give a lot of information today dealing with prophetical years and understandings, just so you can set yourself right, and also, of course, be equipped with the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding to share with others these wonderful truths. Shalom, Gary. Shalom. Shalom, Michael. Shalom. Bless up. So again, just know that within the 7,000-year cycle, and I spoke about it last week, and you'll be hearing a lot of more as we go through the next weeks. There are 2,556,750,000 days within a 7,000-year cycle. These days are perfect, they're numbered out, and they're worked out. As you know, of course, number 7 is the basis of Jah's almanac. His creation week is the foundation of time. And so when we look at a few things today, we're going to get an understanding about the sun, moon, and stars as they relate to certain understandings about the Most High's calendar. And I know that a lot of people are caught up into the equinoxes and solstices as the beginning of seasons. We're not going to cover that today. That will be hopefully within next week's lesson, and we've also covered it from last week as well, but really getting into the details to prove how can you know for sure February is a bib. Like, let's look at the barley, let's look at the seasons, the count, everything, because a lot of people think that February, of course, is winter, right? Because it's just a North American mind frame that we have, and it's no one to really blame that way. That's how we see it over here. But again, we're dealing with things in Jerusalem, in the tropical, subtropical climates as well. And you will know that, of course, there's a different understanding of the seasons very clearly as it goes with the Holy Scriptures. But the creation week is a foundation. We also speak again about this 7,000-year cycle of Jah that covers the 7,000 years of existence that we are in right now. 2 Peter 3 reads, "But the heavens and the earth, which are now by the same word, are kept in store, reserved unto fire against the day of judgment and perdition of unholy men. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with Jah as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day." Now, a lot of people speak about this one day is 1,000 years, and they apply it to the beginning of creation, when this is really applied to the whole of creation. And in particular, as you see the context, this 1,000 years is referring to the judgment, right? This 7,000 years, so to speak. So there's 7 days in a week. Each day is going to be like 1,000 years, and this is where we are. So right now we're in the year 6,221, and we're just on the brinks of 6,222. So it gives you a good understanding about prophecies, prophetical time frames, Jacob's troubles, and all of those things, because they are calculated by chronological time frames, by prophetical years, the 360-day year cycle of prophecy, as well as it's understood many ways about the Most High's festivals, how they're supposed to be kept on his 364 civil day calendar, as well as the sabbatical years as well. You have to include the sabbatical years because these help keep all the seasons in sync so that nothing wanders away from its holy times. So when we look at the 7-day weekly cycle, we know it's 7 days to Sabbath rest. And then when we look in scriptures, we see in Leviticus 25, the sabbatical year, or the 7-year rest. It's based upon, of course, the 7-day cycle. And then what we just read, we have the 7,000-year cycle based upon the 7-year cycle, which is based upon the 7-day cycle. So you can see it's a lot of sevens. But when you have the sevens, the number of wisdom, you can't go wrong as to all these things that deal with the Most High's time frames. And so when we try to use, solar times or lunar times, you'll find that the number 7 has no synchronicity with those lunar cycles or certain solar cycles. Remember this. Jah's sun, moon, and stars operate within his creation for signs, seasons, days, and years, and what we'll cover. They don't dictate his holy days, his months, or anything that way, but they're for certain things, and we just got to make sure we put them in its proper place. So we're going to look at understanding the 360-day prophetical year and the 364-day common year and sabbatical years. Now, you might, speak to a lot of people out there in the world, and they kind of, they'll say that the Most High's calendar is 360 days due to what we see in scriptures, and we'll cover it. But there's a little bit, I guess, a lack of understanding or a full understanding when it comes to these time frames. Now, remember, everything is measured perfectly in Jah's calendar. This is why he says in Psalms 90, verse 12, "So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom." It's very true. And you'll start to see that, the prophets of the scriptures, and in particular, I'm going to bring up Daniel, they knew how to count years utilizing scriptures and other prophecies written by other prophets. And this is what we do in these last times, right? We're entering to other man's labors. We're looking at how they worked out things. We know Daniel got a lot of prophecies in terms of time frames. We know John got the same type of time frames. Isaiah, Jeremiah speak about certain time frames that are according to prophecy to Israel and whatnot. So these things are very important. I want to share this thing from Daniel chapter 9 with you. Verse 2, it reads, "In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of the years, whereof the word of Jah came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish, of course, 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem." Very powerful verse for this understanding, right? Of course, you see 70 years is there. No doubt, 70, 700, 7,000, 7, it's all there. But notice that Daniel is using the book of Jeremiah to calculate and understand the number of years. So when we get into prophecies, we're not just looking up in the sky for when the sun, moon, and stars darken and all these things. These things are written in scripture so that we can have a time frame. And I'll tell you something, David Ray spent good portion of his adult life before he passed away in silence and privacy before Jah, working out these numbers, just like Daniel did. And you can even, when you read these things, you see that Daniel fasted, he prayed for these things. He wanted to understand the time frames of Jah's chronology. And that's where we are now. We're near the end. And if we don't have a good idea about chronology, then anybody and everybody can say, well, next year is going to be the end. And people see what's happening now and they're like, oh boy, it's the beginning of the end, so to speak. Well, let me clarify myself. It is the beginning of the end, but it's not the end. And that's where we are now. We're in a time of sorrows and in the beginning of sorrows and the end time prophecies as they start to unfold for the next 2 centuries, basically. So always remember, you can figure out things by just scripture. So here's the foundation. Jah's scriptural calendar has 364 days in the common year. That's 52 weeks or 52 Sabbaths in the common year. 7 times 52 equals 364. Again, we will be talking about the sabbatical years to keep everything in line with the seasons. And let me just say this in terms of the talk of the equinox. You know that we teach that the equinoxes and the solstices, rightly so, are the middle of the seasons. And there's some new wonderful information about that I want to share with you next week. But, in if you were just to use a 364-day calendar and just only use 364 days, just after a little bit, it would go out of whack. And we have an expert, calendar expert, Jazra, who's going to help us out later on. He was interviewed and he's going to share some information about the Most High's calendar. Yes, the Lunar Sabbath is really a lot of folly in that. And I won't speak too much about it now, but it is folly. And actually, I'll be able to cover something of it just to give you a quick understanding. But the Lunar Sabbaths don't exist that way. I mean, they exist in other people's minds, but according to scriptures, there's no Lunar Sabbath. And we can prove that. So also remember that there's 4 seasons and approximately 91 days or 13 weeks. And so you're going to get 4 times 91 gives you 364. Now, when it comes to Jah's prophetical year, it has 360 days. Please make sure you're taking notes on these things. Don't just be sitting back here and just kind of waiting for me to say something that is kind of very outstanding. These things should be very much understood in these last days of prophecy. So there's be 12 months of 30 days, and 12 times 30 gives you that circle, the 360 days, or you can say 360 degrees or whatnot. But remember, this is a prophetical year, and we'll see how these things work out. Now, the reason why many people think that there are 30 days in the month or even 360 days in a regular civil year, and let me say this, remember, there's a civil year means the calendar that you use for the holy times, and then you have a prophetical year that is used for counting prophetical years. So a lot of people would think that the 360 prophetical year in the scriptures is also the civil year, but it's not. And they see these things by looking at the count of 150 days in the flood that shows 5 months of showing 30 days. We see in the scriptures that people mourn for Aaron and for Moses for 30 days. So, right off the bat, I hear a lot of people say, well, show you something else. Show me something else besides 30 days. You only see 30 days in the scripture and whatnot. I'll say this very easy. Yes, there are 30 days in some of Jah's months in terms of the totality. So I think there's 5 months in Jah's calendar that have 30 days. And then there's 6 months that have 31 days. And then the first month, Abib, the powerful month Abib, that's equivalent to February, has, of course, 28 days, which is the square foundation, 7 times 4 of Jah's calendar. Shalom, Jennifer. Numbers 20, just to cover that little bit of understanding. It says in the red, they mourned for Aaron 30 days. The children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. In Esther, we read chapter 4, verse 11. I mean, it's a longer verse. I just took out I just focused on the highlight part. But I have not been called to come unto the king these 30 days. Daniel 6, verse 7, it says, that whosoever shall ask a petition of any god, that's I think it's not Daniel talking, of course, or any Elohim or man for 30 days, save thee, O king, he shall be cast into the lion's den. So from basically these few verses, people say, hey, look at it, it says 30 days. So right off the bat, they shut down kind of the rest of the thinking and say, we don't have to go no further. 360 divided by 12 is 30 days. We can see it here. But, we can't just stop there. Obviously, there are, as I said, 30-day months. And when you take a look, you'll see that these months, especially even if we look at like Moses, if you look at the beginning of Deuteronomy chapter 1, it tells you that it's the first day, I think, of the 11th month, that way. And then it talks about Moses reiterating this law. I think that's what the word Deuteronomy means, like the reiteration of what they went through. It was the day that he died. He speaks to them for many hours. He climbs upon the mountain, goes to the top. The Most High shows him the land of Canaan, speaks to him for a while. And then the Most High, puts him to sleep, basically, plain and simple. And then he's buried. And then the children of Israel mourn for him for 30 days. So when you start to see these things and you put them into context, and I always don't want to be saying I'm going to talk about it later on, but it's really an understanding that after he died, they mourned for 30 days. And when you look at the 11th month of the Most High's calendar, it has 31 days. So all of that talking, him dying, being buried, and they usually make sure you're buried by the end of the day, and then they mourn for 30 days. And that's something I'm going to explore a little bit more, like I say, as we start to work out the months. But again, I just want to get your thinking there. So 30 days, even though it's mentioned, yes, the Most High's calendar does have 30 days, but they're not all 30 days like people teach. And mostly people who follow the calendar of Enoch utilize that understanding, and then they squeeze in one day at the end of every 3 months. Also, there's a 150-day count that people want to utilize at times. Genesis 7, it says, in the 600th year and the second month, on the 17th day of the month, that's when it started raining. And it says the water prevailed upon the earth 150 days. And in chapter 8, it goes on to speak about this 150 days as well. And this is where the context of understanding comes in, which, I can agree with people seeing a 30-day months here. So we have, and the waters returned from off the earth continually. And after the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. So we see that at the end of the 150 days, the waters were abated. They came down. And then the verse goes on to say, and the ark rested in the 7th month on the 17th day of the month upon the mountains of Ararat. So I'll give you a chart to show you, again, for this understanding. Now, this understanding can show us a couple of things. One thing it does do very clearly, again, I won't be getting into it too much, but it shows that there could never be 29 and 30-day months of which lunar calendars use. A lunar calendar, in any which way or fashion, has to use 29 or 30-day months. They won't have 31-day months at all, and they won't have all 30 days, and they won't have like how Abib has 28 days. So there's usually 29, 30, and then throughout the years, they change whether it's 30, 29, 29, 30, they reverse the numbers, they add on the 13-month and all of this and that. But what we see here on the screen, what I want to share is the focus on is that the 150 days comes to an end, and then it rests on the 17th day of the month. So the 17th day of the month has to come after that 150 days. So Genesis 8 speaks of a 150-day period spanning from the 17th of the second month, which you can see over here to the left with the black arrow, to the 17th of the seventh month, which you can see over at the bottom right with the red arrow. And you can see with this count, the 150th day comes where the black arrow is, and then after that is the 17th. So when all this yellow highlighted part is the actual 150 days. Maybe you can count it if you want later on and press pause, but it's 150 days. And in this model, I've given this model 30-day count, 30-day months, as you can see. So second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth months, all these months here have 30 days in them. We can see that this count crosses 6 months, though. It starts from the second. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then it goes a little bit into the 7th month. But we can see that, as people would say, it covers a 150-day period. And so if we had 30-day months, yeah, it works out pretty good too, right? Can't say anything wrong with that. And again, I want you to keep in mind as well, these are some prophetical times. This is the ending of the world or the earth at that time, and the beginning of Jah's a new cycle, or I guess Jah's new world, which how we all come from Noah in that instance. However, Jah's calendar has 30 and 31-day months, and I'm not speaking about just the bib. And we can see here, this is Jah's calendar. His second month has 31 days, 30, 31, 30, 31, and then this month here would have 31, but it doesn't matter what's at the end. But when we see the same count, we start over at the top left, the 17th. We go down, we see that the 150-day count stops here, and then the 17th day comes after it. So again, notice that the 150 day comes before the 17th on Jah's almanac, which is in sync with the scriptural count found in Genesis 8. And it works, almost perfectly when you deal with the 30 days, because you see it comes right after. But we're dealing with a prophecy thing here, so I just want you to hold on. But if you were to use 29, and 30-day months, you would find out, and I just didn't bring it out because I don't want to focus on that because it takes too much time, but a lunar months would fall short. And so you would have, like, let's look around like the 11th, you would have what you'd have, I guess, is you'd have the 17th coming before the 150 days is over. So like the 150 days would be here, let's say, and the 17th would be before it if you use lunar months. Now, maybe you can't see that with your mind, and I'm not going to chart it right now, but this is one of those main scriptures that can shoot down lunar months that way. But our focus is on the 360. Now, when counting scriptural prophecy, a prophetical year is different from the observance of the civil calendar years that table the seasons, holy feasts, farming and agricultural times, along just with everyday business and economy. A prophetical year is understood from the scriptures to be a 360-day time period, also known as a time. 360 days is one prophetical year, or it could also be equivalent to 360 years, depending on the context. So one time equals 1 year of 360 days, or you can say 360 years, 1 day for a year. And in Daniel and Revelation, you'll see the use of the phrase time and times and half a time, or times and times and the dividing of time, which, as you can see the math, and it's important to know this math, a time is 360 days, and times just means it's doubled. So 360 plus 360 is 720. So we got 360 plus 720, which is 2 times. That's why it's times. And then we have half of a time. A half of 360 is 180. When you add up all of these, you get 1,260 days, which is we're going to show the scriptures, which is according to scriptures. So you can have 1,260 days or years, or you can have 42 months, or you can have 3.5 years. They would all be based off of a time, times, and half a time. So let's just, again, using our wisdom, there's 12 months in a year. So 12 plus 12 is 24, and plus another 12 is 36. and then plus 6, which is half of a year, right? Half of a time would give you 42. So you have your 42 months. And again, 42 months, when you're using that 360 time, would give you 3 years, right? And I'll show you how that works as well. And when we divide 1260 days by 42 months, you will get a 30-day month, because 12 months of 30 days equals 360 days in a year. Daniel 7, verse 25, it reads, "And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time and times and the dividing of time." Excuse me. So what we see here is, again, 360 plus 720 plus 180 equals 1260 years. Or you have a time, which is 1 plus 2, right? That's the times, plus a half, 0.5, gives you 3.5 years. Very important to know if you ever want to get into prophecy. And, I would encourage you to not be afraid of getting into prophecy and understanding and learning about it. Why would God put it into scriptures? He wants to share these things with us. But a lot of times people might say, oh, you know what, this is not salvation issues and this and that. But I mean, it's in the scripture. And I really believe that there's most things that people shrug off as salvation issues. They're not really putting a full understanding into that mind frame, because each little, maybe if you isolate each little piece, it might not look like a salvation issue, but when you start to put them together, it's about the whole program of salvation. So some people might say, oh well, whatever, the Sabbath, it's not really about salvation. Some people will say that, even though it greatly is. But then when you deal with the Sabbath or the festivals and all of these other things, they all make up what salvation is all about. Let's continue. So again, one time equals 1 year of 360 days, or 360 years. Revelation 11, it reads, "But the court which is without or outside the temple leave out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they trod under foot 40 and 2 months." So we see here a couple of things. We have that 40 and 2 months talk, and let's finish it off. Verse 3, "And I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they shall prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth." So again, you see how these numbers now are all starting to come into play. So a lot of times people think that they're separate numbers, but you'd be surprised how prophecy kind of overlaps itself, or cover a 7-year period or a 1,260-year period. And when you put those together, you get 2,520, which is very important when you're talking about Jacob's troubles. And I know all these numbers might be mind-boggling, but just like Daniel, we have to work out these things. So again, 1260, 42 months, or 3.5 years. Now, before I even go on, it says, that don't measure this holy city, because it's given unto the Gentiles for them to trod it for 42 months. Now, think about this. A lot of people might teach that the Gentiles are just, Israelites that have kind of assimilated into the Gentile world. And they'll say a lot of times, most times, the Gentiles are speaking about Israelites. But as we know, it's not Israelites that are trotting down this city, which, you can see what's going on today. That's for sure. There might be some Israelites in there, but we know it's not the real people that are controlling the land. Again, just things to think about. Let's continue. So we look at this 360. I mean, a lot of people like it because it's perfect. A square has 4 angles of 90 degrees. You add up all 90 degrees. 90 times 4, it gives you 360. If you look up here, it's a fantastic integer, so to speak. Like, look at this. If you do 1 times 360, that gives you 360. If you do 2 times 180, it gives you 360. If you do 3 times 120, it gives you 360. If you do 4 times 90, it gives you 360. If you do 5 times 72, gives you 360. If you do 6 times 60, it gives you 360. If you do 8 times 45, gives you 360. If you do 9 times 40, gives you 360. And if you do 10 times 36, gives you 360. And you can kind of see where I'm going with all of this, right? It's dealing with 360, and that's why a circle has 360 degrees, a square, and it tends to be a great number of geometry, this 360, when you're working out carnal physical angles. But remember, we're dealing with the Most High sevens, and 7 is a number of wisdom and perfection. And if you look at this, take a look here. Notice that from 1 through to 10, all the numbers are there except for the missing number 7. That's right. 7, you don't have any multiples of 7, but many multiples of 6, and so on. So 7 is a spiritual number, as I'm saying, of Jah's wisdom and almanac. You got to include Jah's 7s in this understanding. Now, yes, 360 is there, but again, notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Whoop, no 7. 7 can't go into any of these numbers. And when I say it can't go into it, evenly, so to speak. And that's why when you think about a 365-day year for the Gregorian calendar, or if you think about a 354 or 355-day year of the lunisolar calendar, 7 cannot divide into it evenly at all. It's really out of whack. It'll be like 7 point all this or 6 point something. But with Jah's almanac, 7 is perfect. 7 times 52 is 364, right? Very perfect. Nothing left over, no decimal points, and all of that. These are things that you have to understand. And again, Proverbs 9 lets us know wisdom has builded her house. She has hewn out her 7 pillars. This is where the Most High's calendar comes into play greatly. I'm going to be emphasizing that so that you will see these things, because a lot of people can't see the 7s. They see the moon, they see the phases, but they can't see just mathematical count. Now, the prophetical 360 years began from the creation week upon the 5th day after the sun, moon, and stars were made. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you where the 364-day year came from. The 360-day year came from the scriptures. Now, usually when I talk about the 364-day year, people right off the bat, oh, it's the calendar of Enoch, or the calendar of Jubilee, or the Essene calendar from the sacred text of Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, I will admit, they do, all three of those documents and texts do mention the 364 days that are supposed to be in a common year. And that's true. But Jah's almanac is not the Enoch calendar, nor does it run under the same guiding of Jubilee. So again, those are just references, but I want to focus your mind on just trying to deal with the Old Testament, Old New Testament. You can use the Apocrypha, of course, as well, in a clean way, and give you this understanding. So please pay attention to this. So we have the first 4 days began with Jah's count. And on the 4th days, he made the sun, moon, and stars. And on the 5th day, the sun, moon, and stars were brought in the first 306-day prophetical year. Let's look at the math. 4 plus 360 equals 364. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So we have the 7-day creation week. And when we look at things, these first 4 days here came into operation day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, without the sun, moon, and stars. They're there with Jah's count. And this is where even Gary, even to reference to Gary's question about the lunar Sabbath, if you can have a lunar Sabbath, you notice something about this 7-day Sabbath, the first Sabbath of the year, right? The very first one. The 7-day weekly cycle, as you know, is the foundation of all things, time. But you notice that this 7-day Sabbath isn't from 7 days from the creation of the sun, moon, and stars. So if you were to have a lunar Sabbath, you couldn't. The first Sabbath that existed in time has nothing to do with the sun, moon, and stars, because you can see that they weren't made till day 4. So those who want to follow a lunar Sabbath, they would have to count probably from day 4 or day 5, because day 5 is when everything went into operation. He made everything on day 4, and then they began doing their thing at the end of day 4, beginning day 5. You'd have to count 7 days from when the sun, moon, and stars were created, and therefore you would be skipping over Jah's 7-day Sabbath from the beginning and keeping some kind of lunar Sabbath, which is, of course, dealing with the sun, moon, and stars. Remember, the Most High never commanded us to use the sun, moon, and stars for months or holy days. And yes, I know it says new moon, and people say moon means month. We'll get to that another time. But you'll see that it's very, very particular what Jah's talking about. So these first 4 days here came in without the sun, moon, and stars, right? 4 days with Jah's light. Remember, the first light that he made on day 1, as you can see there, was not the sun, moon, or stars. So he has these 4 days. And then beginning from day 5, we're going to have the first day of the sun, moon, and stars taking over, which will begin the 360-day prophetical year. And I'll show you how this works. It's very beautiful. Please pay attention. So Genesis 1:14 reads, "And Elohim said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years." So notice what's going on here. We got four things. We got signs, seasons, days, and years, right? That way. Now this word signs is the word oath, and I just put it. I mean, you can check out the scripture, strong scripture number for it. It's not that important, but it is. I did get the definition from there. Normally I put it there. I should have put it, but that's okay. You can do that work yourself. You can see that this word here for signs is oath, and it means sign or signal, a distinguishing mark, a banner, remembrance, miraculous sign, an omen, a warning, a token, miracle, proof. So again, an omen is a prophetical sign. All of these are dealing with signs. So you see that the sun, moon, and stars are for signs, for seasons, the agricultural seasons. And some might say that the word seasons translates as moed. And so they'll say that it's dealing with the holy days. So they'll say, let them be for signs, holy days, for days and years. But it's really for the same simple seasons, the agricultural seasons, summer and winter. You know the sun, moon, and stars run those things. When the sun is out longer, it's summer. When it's hotter, it's summer. When the moon is out longer and the nights are longer, it's winter, right? Very simple. So again, though, what's missing here? Nothing about months and nothing about holy days per se, or nothing about weeks. Because remember, the weekly cycle is a 7-day count from the beginning. You don't use the sun, moon, or stars for the Sabbath. Some try to with the lunar Sabbath, but I mean, outside of knowing that when a day ends and begins, yes, that's how we can know where the sun comes into play. But you wouldn't be able to look up into the sky and see the sun and say, "Hey, look, that looks like it's the 7-day Sabbath." Right? You'd be able to look up in the sky and understand things about years and that, those kind of things. But again, not for the Sabbath, not for a month. People will use the moon for months, but it doesn't say, it says, let them be for these things. It doesn't single out the moon for anything in this instance. So again, I'm focusing on this prophetical thing. And the sun, moon, and stars, believe it or not, they're signs for seasons, but they're also great, fantastic signs of prophecy. Let us read. Joel chapter 2, verse 31. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the coming of the great and awesome day of the Most High. That's right. The moon is turned to blood. The sun is going to be darkened. We see in Joel chapter 3, verse 15, the sun and the moon shall be darkened and the stars shall withdraw their shining. So all these scriptures, these three scriptures here that I'm going to be quoting, are there just to show you an understanding that this prophetical year that is in the scriptures that deals with prophecy started from day 5 after the sun, moon, and stars were created, and that the sun, moon, and stars are also signs of prophecy. And this is why you'd have the 360 prophetical year. Luke 21:25. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distresses of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. Revelation 8. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars. So as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. So this is an understanding. So I want you to catch these things. These are prophetical things. I mean, if you just go to Wikipedia and type in prophetical year or prophetic year, and they'll give you, everybody knows that a prophetic year is counted by 360. The problem is that when you try to use a 360-day calendar to deal with the Most High's holy days, there's the festivals will be out of whack, the seasons would be out of whack very quickly. So again, remember, Jah's origination week or the creation week was also 7 24-hour days. So we see on day 1 of this is creation right here. There's the beginning of week 1, month 1, season 1, and year 1. That's when time began, right? Day 4, Jah's calendar doesn't begin from day 4, right? That's not where things begin from. That's when he made the sun, moon, and stars to take over and be synchronized within his creation. The creation already began. So we see that the 360-day prophetical year of the sun, moon, and stars begins after they are originated. So Jah's first 4 days, like I was saying, plus the 360 prophetical days of the sun, moon, and stars equals 364. Again, 7 times 52 is 364. Let me also show this a little bit more clearly. So what you see here is just basically a blank calendar. And if I were you, and if you want to get into calendars, maybe not that, it doesn't interest everybody because it is quite challenging. It takes a lot of time. But you can start off by just, making a blank calendar, and then maybe reading your scriptures and plotting certain dates, whether it's the first, second month. Don't worry about the names. And you can even do these kind of count if you want to do 365 lunar cycles of 354 years and stuff like that. You'll see that it, kind of out of whack. But I want to just focus here on this aspect of the prophetical year. So we have 7 times 52 is 364 days. So from day one, right up here in the top left to the bottom, right, is 364 days. But we're going to see how this first year encompasses the 364 civil and the 360 prophetical year. So we see where the black arrow is. That's day one of the sun, moon, and stars carrying out their first 360 circular prophetical year. The first 4 days come in by Jah's count, and the 7-day Sabbath is observed by the count from 1, nothing astronomical, lunar, or solar. So this is where the 360 prophetical year starts, and I'm not putting all the numbers on the screen, but we'll see that the last day of the year, right at the bottom right corner, is the 364th day from day 1, but it's also the 360th day from day 5. So that last day, which is the Sabbath, and if you know how we teach about the Most High's calendar, it's perfect. Just like how Genesis began from the first day of the weekly cycle, every year the Most High's years will always begin on the first day of the year, and they will always end on the 7th day of the year, even when we get to the sabbatical years as well, the minor and major sabbatical years. But this here chart here should be very clear to give you an understanding the synchronization of Jah's 360-day prophetical years and his first 364-day civil and holy year that we observe the festivals on. Beautiful, beautiful things. Let's continue. So here we have basically it's just a Gregorian calendar starting from February. Yep, I always like to do that. And this is like, it's straight. So we have February as the first month. And, a lot of people wonder, why is February the first month? But when you know what a bib is, and that that a bib can only have 28 days, the first month. If you don't want to call it a bib, you can call it the first month, right? We don't call it Nisan. That's a Babylonian pagan god's name. But you'll see that the first month of Jah's almanac, his calendar, is 28 days long. And so is February 28 days long in a regular common year. And they do an extra day in leap years. We're going to talk about those things. So what you see here basically, again, is just the whole year. And I've shifted January down to near the end. But notice again, if you were to just go look at this from the beginning of February up here for this year and go down to the 30th, that's 364 days. But then we have this 31st day here, which is the 365th day. So this is why your calendar, your birthday always shifts. Because if you have a 364-day year, the weekly cycle doesn't move. It's perfect. It runs within the whole year. But when you add that one extra day, bringing it to 365, now the next year after that, if you look, it's going to start on a Monday, right? It's like how your birthday moves around. So this is why when they use the 365-day year, we say it's off by a day, even though they want to say it's a 1 day and a quarter, but there's no such thing as a quarter day, right? In terms of calculating. Everything is a mathematical count. Let's move on. Now, this is Jah's perfect common year calendar. So this is everything for Jah's common year. And I'm going to share about the common year. As you can see, it says common year. This is how it's going to be for every single common year, 364 days, always beginning on the first day of the week. Every month begins on the same day of the week, all the time, forever, from the beginning of creation until Jah comes again, until the Messiah comes again. It will always be the same. It's fixed and it's set. So you can see everything with a red or a highlight is something that deals with Jah's fixed anchors of his calendar. And this is how you start to learn how to formulate the calendar and the festivals. So again, from day one of Abib to the last day of the year, the bottom right, that's 364 days, perfectly, always operating like this. And I'm going to show you more how it works. So let's look at Jah's 28-year cycle, the sabbatical years, and Jah's 10,227 days. I'm pretty sure after today, this lesson, you will not forget this 10,227 days, nor should you. You should write it down, remember it. It's a great, perfect multiple of 7. Of course, 7 goes into it perfectly. It has to. But we're talking about this 28-year cycle that is just perpetual, perfect 28-year cycle. And the world knows of this. Anybody who does calendars, the Gregorian calendar, all of them know about it. They have to use Jah's calendar in order to formulate theirs. Even way back 45 BC with the Julian calendar, or 1582 AD with the Gregorian calendar, or even these Babylonian lunisolar calendars, they all operate within his 28-year cycle. They must. They can't come out of it. So as you know, we speak about this a lot. The Most High has his 7-day cycle. Exodus 20 is about the Sabbath, right? The Sabbath day. And then Leviticus 25, verse 3 is about the 7th year, right? So as I showed before, they're based upon the 7-year cycle is based upon the 7-week cycle. I speak about that a lot. So this is what I mean again. And this is, again, an understanding you should know. So that means every 7th year is when you read the scripture, it's a Sabbath of rest. Now, when we talked about the 7,000-year cycle, we can see that that last 1,000 years of that 7,000-year cycle would be a rest as well, perfectly working in harmony with the 1,000-year rest when the Messiah comes to the earth. This is why you must keep a good Sabbath, because that Sabbath is like a mini type of the rest, the 1,000-year rest that we're going to keep. And if people want to disrespect these little small Sabbaths, it's almost like more than likely they're not even keeping the rest of the law anyways, because the Sabbath is actually a testing command. If you read about it, he tests the people to see if they'll walk in his law by the Sabbath. But it represents that 1,000-year period. 6 days we have of creation. Satan's running this place for the 6,000 years, and then the Messiah is going to come back and take over. So the 7th-year Sabbath of rest is also based upon the same thing like the 7-day Sabbath and 7,000-year cycle. Let's continue. Now, Jah's calendar consists of a 28-year cycle with respect to the 7-day week and 7-year cycles. Sabbatical years, 7-year weeks, occur every 7 years, and there are 4 sabbatical years formulating a perpetual 28-year cycle that repeats within just 7,000 years of origination perfectly. So 7 times 4 is 28, a perfect square. 7 sides of 4 square, it's a foundation, it's a cornerstone based upon even just 24-hour day from creation. So it's a cornerstone for Jah's calendar for his first month and for the 28-year cycle. And I'll show you what I mean. So again, I'm not going to cover Abib, the 28-day month now. I will cover it either next week or the week after for sure. It doesn't matter, but it'll be properly. And I've already done it online. You can look for it if you want. Look for a video called Abib in my channel, and it'll break it down. But Abib, as I'm showing, always starts on the first day of the week, like creation week. Abib always ends on the 7th day of the Sabbath. Abib only has 28 days, no more or less. Abib is the foundational cornerstone of Jah's seasons, his months, and his years. Jah's 28-year cycle is patterned off of the foundation of the first month of Abib. It has 7 Sabbaths, and Jah's 28-year cycle has 4 sabbatical years within it. Again, perfectly working in harmony. So if we look at Abib, the first month of the scriptural year, all the time it'll always be like this. Never ever changes, no matter what year you go to in creation. And within this chart here, it's a basic chart of Abib with days you can plot yourself, and you start right from Genesis and use these scriptures, and you'll see it fit. If you had a blank calendar, it would fit out perfectly, and you see how it works out. But notice again, it's the first day of the week. First day of Abib starts on the first day of the week, and the last day, the 28th day of that month only. All the other months have 31 and 30 days. Only the first month of Abib has 28 days. It's the foundation. And you can see where it's at here. This is just like the 28-year cycle. So as we look at Jah's 7,000-year week as it's plotted in the Revelation of Jah's Almanac, you can see here that if we go up top, we can start from this first corner up here. That's year one from creation. You see that there's a little star there. It's equivalent to the year 4199 BC. This is the first year of creation. And within this box, there's 28 days. So every line is 28 days. On the far right, after you go through all of these cycles, when you get near the end, you'll see that the last 28-day year cycle also deals with the 7,000 years right here with the arrows pointing. So each box or line is a sequence of 28 days, 28 years, sorry, not days, years. I just got to make you see it. I'm going to explain it further. So in the first box, let's say this is the first box of the first 28-year cycle. Then you have the second one after it. Again, there's multiples of 7. So 7 going across, then 1, 2, 3, 4 going down, 7, 14, 21, 28. And then the count keeps going from 29 and so on, but it's still 28 years, right? So all of these years are going to be the same. It just after the year 28 comes, then the calendar resets itself, and it starts at year 1 again. And that would be, say, the year 29. It goes through its sequence. Then that 20th year would be the 56th year from creation, the year 57, so on and so forth. And this goes all the way throughout time. And like I said, when you get near the end, right, this cycle, remember, has 7,000 years. I'm just giving you the beginning and the end. Otherwise, you'd have to go through charts and charts and charts. But eventually, when you get back here, the last 28-year cycle, you can see that it's the year 2800 AD. See the number 28 again? 2800 AD. That's way in the future, because right now we're in 2021 or 22, sorry, AD. So that's a little bit in the future, right? When that 7,000-year cycle ends. That's not when the Messiah is coming. He's coming within this cycle. But again, I just wanted to let you know. As you can see here, it says where my scroll is going back and forth, the end of the 250th 28-year cycle. Notice that this ending here, where the arrow is pointing, is the end of the 1,000th 7-year cycle. It's the end of the 10th 700-year cycle. It's the end of the 140th Jubilee. We're going to call it a 50-year cycle. The Jubilees have to be spoken about another time. The end of 70 100-year cycles. And the first 7,000-year cycle of Jah ends. See how the perfection works? So you remember the chart I had when it says 1 times 7, 70 equals 7,000 and all of those? This is how it works. You see how it's perfect. It starts perfectly in year 1 and ends perfectly. And that means the next cycle after 7,000, like let's say we go to 7,001, that would be the beginning of a new 28-year cycle, right? So all these calendars, all you need is 28, and it repeats every year. And even the Gregorian calendar is the exact same that we use today. I'm just going to read this thing here. Calendar expert Jazra points out, the idea of a 364-day year has been thought by some calendar proponents as ancient and against the natural seasons, seeing that after 25 years, the seasons would come a month too early and be out of whack with the equinoxes and solstices used by the 365-day calendar. The seasons would be out of whack. Jazra goes on to say, every Sabbath year or seventh year, an extra week, 7 days, is added to the end of the year, the 12th month, Adar, totaling 371 days. 364 plus 7 equals 371. As Joshua continues, adding an extra 2 weeks, 14 days, 14 plus 364 gives you 378, to every fourth sabbatical year, or every 28 years, 4 times 7 is 28, the calendar is even more accurate than the astronomical Gregorian equinox calendar. That's right, Jah's calendar is perfect. You never would have to move anything around. Everything falls into play. Jah's original calendar has established the original 10,227 days within his 28-year cycle of creation, aligning with his true seasons. Jah's goes to point out, both the Gregorian and Julian calendars have 10,227 days also within a perpetual 28-year cycle that stays in sync with the seasons. The deception is really a matter of switching the numerics. Instead of saying 7 times 4 equals 28, they reverse it and say, hey, 4 times 7 gives you 28. Yes, you get the same 28-year cycle, but now the holy days and the weekly cycle are shifting and moving around within the 28-year cycle, the dates I'm talking about. So in other words, Jah has 4 groups of 7, and the Gregorian has 7 groups of 4, all in order to shift the festival days from their fixed position. This guy Jezra really knows what he's talking about. Let's continue. Now we're learning things right now. Everything right now is about learning, nothing about comparing and everything. These are the facts, how you go with the Most High's almanac. There are 3 types of years within Jah's 28-year cycle, and here's what they are. The common year of 364 days or 52 weeks. The minor sabbatical year of 371 days or 53 weeks. The major sabbatical year of 378 days or 54 weeks. So one thing I want that stands out, because every calendar uses some type of it's called intercalation, right? The Gregorian calendar has leap years. The lunisolar calendar has leap month years, where they add a whole 30-day month at the end of basically every 3rd year in their 19-year cycle. So having intercalary days to keep into sync with the seasons is something that is normal and should be understood, because the sun, moon, and stars are operating within Jah's creation, right? So follow me now. So this is the last 3 months of the year in a common year. And I'm focusing on, everything we're focusing on is on the 12th month of Adar. Because in the sabbatical years, the only, I guess that's the only month that has any effect, like the length. So the 364-day calendar in the sabbatical years, it will still run perfectly all the months, but Adar is where we're going to put that 7 extra days or the week or that extra Sabbath. So in a common year, this is how it would be, right? 30 days are normally in Adar. In the minor sabbatical year, notice it says 37 days or 1 extra week, and we can see it right here. So after 30, we have this 1 extra week. So in the sabbatical year, minor sabbatical year, Adar has 37 days. Again, notice that the weekly cycle is not interrupted. Then the major Adar in the major sabbatical year has 44 days or 2 weeks extra. So we can see Adar here with its 30, but then we have the 2 extra weeks. This is the important foundation to understand about the Most High's almanac. I've never really shared it this much and very clearly up until really now. David's book explains these things greatly, but this year chart here should give you an understanding of the different types of years that I spoke about, so as not to get confused with anything. 1 second here. Let me just take a quick second here. Sorry about that. Let's continue. So we can see this here charted on David's wonderful banner of Zion. All right. Around this circle here, there's 28 stars. Inside circle is 12 stars for the months, the apostles and the tribes. Then we have 7 days, 7 stars in the middle, going towards the middle. And then we have our 7-pointed diamond star in the middle. 7 points. We don't deal with 6, right? Because that's dealing with the adversary. We don't deal with 6, we deal with 7s. There are 7 colors in the rainbow. The rainbow belongs to Jah. The heathens don't, have it, so we use it same way. You'll see at the bottom is where I'm starting my count. That starts as 28. So when we begin, the beginning of the 20-year cycle, this would be the first year. And then as we go through, we have the first sabbatical year, which is a minor one. Remember how that works, a minor sabbatical year. And then we have the second sabbatical year, another minor, 14. Calendar 21 is the third sabbatical year, minor. And then the fourth one is the major sabbatical year. So if you remember how like a common year, all the small stars are common years. So you have one common year, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you have a sabbatical year. So remember, that's 7 extra days on Adar, right? So that'll be 371 days in that year. And then when we go all the way around, second sabbatical year, 371, 371. The major has 378, which is at 2 extra weeks. This is why Jah's almanac can be seen in David's banner. This is the chief banner of Zion that highlights so much beautiful things about the calendar. We can get in another time into the 12 months. You can see the 7 stars, 7,000 year cycle, the 7 holy days, the 7-day weekly cycle, so on and so forth. So Jah's almanac or calendar, that's the word almanac is another word for calendar, has 364 days in the common year, as we said, 52 weeks. That's the math here, 7 times 52 in the common years. The last month of Adar has 30 days in the common year, just regular. We showed that, but let's get into it again. So here's all the months and the day numbers and their equivalency. I'm not going through all of them. I'm just focusing. You can see the seasons and everything. I'm focusing on Adar. When you do up, so again, we have Jah's month going from the left, Abib, equivalent to February. Again, we'll talk about that another time. We have the number of days in Jah's months. We have the spring, summer, autumn, winter that don't deal with the equinoxes or solstices. You do all the adding up, 28 plus 31, 30, 31, 30, blah, 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 all of that gives you 364 days. Remember, we're talking about a common year. So this is how Adar looks like in a common year, 30 days regular. It will always begin on the 6th day of the week. And it will always end on the Sabbath, right? Even if it's a sabbatical year, the year still ends on the Sabbath, just a week later. So again, this is a common year. As you can see, I put common year up here in the top left just to show an understanding, 364 days. Here now is also another chart. This is dealing with the days, months, and seasons of Jah's common year. Again, we're doing the common year thing. And this chart is beautiful. I'm going to try to explain it very quickly one time, but I'll go into it next couple of weeks in a more exclusive way. But again, we have, going from the top row, we have all the names of Jah's months. We have their numerical value. And yes, we use Judah and Dan because this 4th month here is called somewhere Tammuz, and there's no name for the 5th month. So we use the 4th and 5th sons of Israel in their birth order and just put Judah and Dan. But if you don't like those names and you figure, hey, what are you guys doing? Well, just use the numerical equivalents. But we have to put something there since all the other months have names. So we have, again, the equivalency, February, March, you can see that. Then the next day is the amount of days in Jah's months, and the day of the week equals 364 days. So, for example, see how it says 28 days? You're learning that Abib has 28 days, right? February Abib. It also starts on the first day of the week, or the Roman equivalent is Sunday. Ziph has 31 days, but it also starts on the first day of the week and a Sunday. Sivan, the last month of the winter rains, April showers bring summer May flowers. That starts on the 4th day of the week, which is equivalent to Wednesday. And as you go through everything here, you start to see again, I'm not going to go through them all, but this chart here is so perfect. Something I designed after reading as many charts I've designed after getting the knowledge from David's understanding of the almanac. And I'm thankful to Jah to bring up all these charts because they're very helpful. Remember that when I do charts, I pay exclusive details to charts. So if you see color codes, especially like if it's blue, it's dealing with the rainy seasons or winter. And if you see the warmer colors, of course, it's for those warmer seasons. So I use a lot of, details trying to get, this understanding out. So now underneath we have just 2 6-month summer and winter seasons, because some people will say, hey, well, it's not really 4 months. You can't find autumn and spring, but they're in the scripture. They're just not called that, but they're there. You have the rainy seasons in the blue again, everything falling into play. The 6-month dry summer season. You see how many days there are. These are all perfect, but again, I can't speak of them now. So we have spring is 89, summer 92, autumn 92. Now notice here is what I want to focus on, because we're dealing with a common year. So that means winter is 91 days. And as you can see, Adar has 30 days. And we know that when we go to the minor sabbatical year, there's going to be more days in Adar. So here's a perfect chart, again, looking at it, but we're going to have to move on. So again, Adar in the common years, we see how it goes, right? We're going to go back to this to help us understand. Now, Jah's almanac, his calendar, has 371 days in the minor sabbatical year. That's 53 weeks, or 53 Sabbaths. 7 times 53 is 371. The last month of Adar has 37 days in the minor Sabbath year. 1 extra week, of course, 7s, or 7 days. So remember, we had this chart the same way we showed everything. All those numbers are adding up. But now when we look at Adar, we see that Adar has 37 days, which now totals 371 because we're in a minor Sabbath or sabbatical year. Again, just giving you an understanding. You notice how the seasons still stay the same. Everything is, the weekly cycle doesn't shift because it's only an extra week. So everything is still perfect. The year will still start in the beginning of the weekly cycle, and it'll always end on the weekly cycle, the Sabbath. So here's Adar, the 12th month in the minor Sabbath year. So as you can see, it says there are 371 days in the minor sabbatical year. And I'll be releasing this calendar in a couple of weeks for the next year's calendar for February coming, so we can all have our up-to-date calendars. But you'll notice that now, remember, Adar normally has 30 days, but now we have that extra week. And now it's still the end of winter. So winter's a little bit longer. It's like a week longer than normal. And just like how it goes in the world, sometimes you're like, whoa, this has been like a long winter or a cold winter or this and that. Now you're going to get a little bit of an understanding how these things happen. So here's the 364-day calendar like I have all the time. But notice now it's a minor sabbatical year. So at Adar, remember, we're always looking at Adar, 31 to 37 right here, that extra week. 371 days. But again, you see everything is still the same. A bib still starts on the first day of the week. All the numerical values, everything is still the same. You're just putting on that extra week at the end of Adar, and this doesn't affect the seasons or anything. Actually, this is what keeps everything in line. Never mind affecting it. It keeps it perfect. So notice that week there. So I have the same chart. Remember I showed the same chart before, right? But now this is dealing with the minor Sabbath year at the top. Notice Adar now, still 12th month. It has 37 days now, right? A little bit longer, 98 days. Winter is 98 days instead of the 91 days because we're in a minor sabbatical year. So winter is a little bit longer than normal every 7th year. Jah's almanac, his calendar, has 378 days in the major sabbatical year or the 28th year. 54 weeks or 54 Sabbaths times 7 gives us 378 days. Oh, it says the Sabbath. Hold on, let me fix this 1 second here. I put minor sabbatical year, and it's supposed to be the major sabbatical year. Major. There we go. Yes, 54 weeks in the major sabbatical year. The last month of Adar has 44 days in the major Sabbath year. 2 extra weeks or 14 days. So looking at this chart again, Abib, Ziph, Saban, Judah, Dan, Elul, Ethan, Bul, Kislu, Tebet, Sabat, and Adar. I'll say this. Tell you, when you get into Jah's things, you should know all the names of the tribes of Israel. Even you should learn them by their birth. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. You should know these things as an Israelite. There are forefathers. You should know the apostles. And when you start to learn things, you should know the months and their names and their values. Why not learn these things? Jah's going to reward you, right? The Most High is going to reward you for learning about his stuff rather than focusing on other folly things in the world. So, I think it's important to teach your children all the tribes, anything that has numerical value. You should know all the festivals, when they are, what they are, the 7 holy convocations. That's something you should know as an Israelite. All Israelites in those times, they knew these things. They knew how long the numbers of the months were because Jah's calendar is fixed. So I know they had to know, and it's fixed because it's fixed in my mind. Like I can do the whole calendar. It sounds like a brag. I'm just got to tell you the truth. I can do the whole calendar from my mind, right? May Jah keep my mind clean. But I know exactly each day of the week, each month, each month, when they start on each day of the week. You learn these things, how long each month is. This is something you just grow to learn, to get into. And to me, it's very important, especially if I'm going to teach these things and you're going to teach your children or whatnot and friends and teach yourself. You got to know these things. I really think it's important. We sell ourselves short when we just focus on memorizing just a verse here and there. That's okay, but memorize just fundamentals, right? His concepts. So we can see here, January again has 44 days, giving us this 378 days. Here's how Adar looks in the major sabbatical year, right? It normally have 30 days, but now we got our 2 extra weeks. The year still ends on the Sabbath, right? And it's 44 days long now. We have a long winter, a long year and a long winter. The year after this is going to go right back to calendar 1. So as we keep looking through these things, here's just 364-day year plus the extra 2 weeks that keep everything in line, the 44 days in Adar, right? Remember, Adar is the only thing that's affected. I hope these principles are coming through. So remember this chart here, the same chart from the seasons, days, and years, but now we're focusing on the major Sabbath, 378 days. Adar right now has 44 days and not the 30, and not the 37. We still have the 3 months, but now it's 105 days or 14 weeks, or 14 days longer, 2 weeks longer. So again, I hope you can see some things here, that these things are charted out, tableized. You can't move, you can't shift it, you can't lie on it, you can't do any faulty math with it. It's perfect. And the Gentiles know this, and this is how they formulate the Gregorian calendar, and I'll prove it. So again, we're seeing all these years, 3 types of years: the common year, the minor sabbatical year, the major sabbatical year. So let's put them on a chart for us. We have just perpetual 28-year almendrical or calendrical cycle. These are words, you know, these are words. The common year of 364 days, that's in the white. And then we have our sabbatical years. So we know that we go from 6 years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we have our first minor sabbatical year. And as we go through everything, we start to see how it works out. And remember, after year 28, family, after year 28, you just go back to calendar 1 for the 28-year cycle, and it repeats. And it repeats. This repeats throughout time. This is why the days and dates of the week, of the months, never shift from the days of the week. The days and dates of the months never shift from the days of the week on the Most High's calendar, like any calendar does. If you use a lunar calendar, lunisolar calendar, the Enoch calendar, well, the Enoch calendar keeps it a little bit fixed, but it's fixed on the equinox and the middle of the week thing. But the concept of it, because you're using weeks, makes everything set and fixed. And remember, the feasts are called set feasts. So we see 4 sabbatical years within just 28-year cycle. So let's look at just 28-year cycle, highlighting the 7-year sabbatical cycles again. Take note here. Again, I'm just bringing them out to you, but I want you to kind of focus on these things. Give thanks, Andrea. So look at this chart here. We have the common years, right? Same thing. So this is the 28-year cycle, just very simple, from 1 to 28. We have the number of days, 371, 371, 371, 378. There's 364 days in all of the gray here. If you really count all of the gray, you got 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're going across, you have 6. So 6 times 4 is 24. And then you have the 4 sabbatical years. So you have 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So again, just looking at this thing, you're recognizing that there's 24 common years. There's 3 minor sabbatical years, and there's 1 major sabbatical year, and a total of 4 sabbatical years, giving us 24 plus 4 is 28. Now, I want to talk about this 10,227 days. And it's very simple, and I'll show you the math. It's just like in a 28-year cycle, all you're going to do is you're going to count up 364 plus 364 plus 364 plus 364 plus 364. Now, you could do all of that adding, but if you know, we can multiply. So you can do 364 times, let's say 24, right? Because there's 24 common years. We can do the math of 371 times 3, because there's 3 minor sabbatical years, and there's no math to do with 378 unless you want to say times 1. So when you add up all of these days, whether you're going to add it, multiply it, that you're going to get 10,227 days. And I did the math for you to show you, but you can still use your own calculator if you want, or if you're old school, just do paper and pen. That's how we learned. So let's look at Jah's calendrical cycle, the 28 again. So we have the year type on the left, the total weeks of the year are days, the occurrences within the 28-year cycle, and the total amount of days in the 28-year cycle. And don't worry, I'll explain it to you. So in the common year, that's what kind of year it is. This we know is 364, 52 weeks. There's 24 common years within the 28-year cycle, right? 24 times 364 gives you 8,736. Remember, there's minor sabbatical years. That was 371 days or 53 weeks. Remember that there's 3 of them. So 3 times 371 gives you 1,113. And then remember, we have the major sabbatical year, or the 28th year of Jah's 28-year cycle, that had 378 days, 54 weeks, or that 14 days. And there's only one of them within a 28-year cycle. So that's the math there. When you add up all of these, of course, you're going to get 10,227 days within the 20-year cycle. So this is the total amount of years and days. You can see it's perfect. But if you want to see the perfection more clearly, you'll see that the heathens know this, especially the calendar people there. So let's look at the Gregorian 20-year solar cycle quickly. Again, this is a 28-year calendar that repeats itself just like the Most High's almanac. This is why the Gregorian calendar is very superior to the lunisolar calendar, even though they start in January and everything. But it's the numerics, the mathematics are on point to the T, right? But they're using it deceptively. And that's why you think about it, the lunisolar calendar that a lot of our Hebrew brothers and sisters use, calling it the Hebrew calendar, which it's not, it's a Babylonian calendar. But when you look at that calendar, it has to adjust to the Gregorian calendar and the equinox. That's what they do. They adjust that moon when the new year begins to when the Gregorian calendar says is the equinox. So the Gregorian calendar really tells the lunisolar calendar what to do, how high, when to jump and how high. So even though they begin in January, their numerics is far superior than 354 days in the lunisolar calendar. And a lot of people know these things still. Let's get into this as we almost finish. So the 20-year solar cycle or Julian cycle is a 20-year cycle of the Julian and Gregorian calendars with respect to the 7-day week, like Jah's almanac. It occurs because leap years occur every 4 years, and there are 7 possible days to start a leap year because there's 7 days in a week, making a 28-year sequence. And remember I told you about the math. Now it's 4 times 7, not 7 times 4. Let's see how this works. So again, it says what happens every 20 years? The solar cycle is a 20-year cycle of the Julian calendar and 400-year cycle of the Gregorian calendar with respect to the week. It occurs because leap years occur every 4 years. Again, there are 7 possible days to start a leap year, making a 28-year sequence. This other question here, and this is from the internet. This is how they put it out there to make you think that people know about this. I'm not speaking like something that does, is not known. Why do calendars repeat every 28 years? So people know this. Since the leap years come in a 4-year cycle, you need to find a cycle that is a multiple of 4 years that shifts the day by a multiple of 7 days. You can then observe that in 20 years, you have 7 leap years and shift the day by 35 days. This is important, that 35, which is a multiple of 7. That's right, 7 times 5 is 35. I'll tell you what they mean soon about that 35 days. You therefore get a repeat after 28 years. Now, there are 2 types of years in the Gregorian and Julian 28-year cycle calendar systems, and they are the common year of 365 days, or 52 weeks plus 1 day, or the leap year of 366 days, or 52 weeks plus 2 days. So when we look at this almanac, we see again, it's a 8-year cycle. So you know how it goes. Like, so let's look at this year. This year is a regular common year of 365 days, but the last leap year was 2020, right? That was the last leap if you count. So anyways, we got this common year of 365 days. You can see from 1 to 28, a 28-year cycle. 365 days, we have their leap years of 366 days. So how many, let's look at this again. We have 7 leap years. And 7 minus, if you take 7 from 28, that leaves you 21. So that means there's 21 common years and there's 7 leap years. All right, bringing you 28. Now, when we do the same mathematics, praise Jah. Listen, no scientist, no scripture man, nobody in this whole earth ever can, no matter what, play with Jah's, his 10,227 days. It's impossible. This year shoots down every other calendar that wants to use the moon or whatever, because they didn't even understand the depths of this. And that's why I know when I speak about calendars to people, it doesn't go over their head because they're not, wise or anything like that. It's just that the depths and the layers of things, people wouldn't even think that there's, what do you mean counting days? For them, they like, hey, just tell me when the years are. I want to know when the festivals are, and just let me know. But it's a little bit more complex than that. But as you can see, you add up all of these days, right? 365 plus 365 plus 365 plus 366. 365, 365, 365 plus 365. You add them up, you're going to get 10,227 days. Sound familiar, right? So we're looking at the same thing, the year type. The common year of 365 days, 52 weeks plus 1 day. 21 times 365 gives you 7,665. The leap year is 366 days, 52 weeks plus 2 days. 7 times 366 gives you 2,562 days. We do our math, family. You got your 28 years and your 10,227 days that the Gregorian calendar has to use that belong to Jah. Well, what else are they going to use? I mean, it's Jah's creation, right? So you start to see what's going on and the perfection. Let's continue. So we're going to compare Jah's 28-year cycle and the Gregorian 28-year solar cycles. And again, remember, Jah's sabbatical years and Gregorian leap years, they have Jah's 10,227 days. You have to use it. So as we look at this comparison, we have on the left side Jah's almanac, his calendar. Again, 28 years, 10,227 days. We have the sabbatical years, we have the common years. Then we have the astronomical or the Gregorian calendar, 28 years, 10,027 days, 277 days. Oh, 27 days. Hey, you see that? Boy, I tell you, I got to go back in there. You see how you can do one wrong thing, one mistake can mess up anything, everything. If you make one mistake with a number, it won't come out right. Let me make sure I did that right. We're comparing, where is it? 10,227 days, right? That's what we're dealing with. Yes, 10,000. Oh, you know what? I can't change it right now, so my mistake. I'm going to take it from here anyways. I'm just looking in the room. All right. So, excuse me, right here. Right here, I put 10,277 days, but it's 27 days, and I can't change it right now, but I will later. It's the same thing as, again, one mix up there. But nonetheless, it works out perfect. Let's continue. Again, you can start to see how, this is the Gregorian calendar. If you go to number 30th, December 30th, that's the 52nd week, 364 days. But again, you have that extra day number 365, which starts to move the Gregorian calendar again. But remember, they're moving within Jah's 10,227 days. So when we look at these things, this is Jah's 28-year cycle. I want you to see these numbers on the side. Remember that 35 days talk. So look at 371 has an extra 7 days, right? So 7 plus 7 plus 7 plus 14 gives us this 35 days. What is this 35 days? This is 35 days is extra as according to the 364 days. And I'll show you what I mean with the Gregorian calendar. You notice that I have here, like it says 365 and has a bracket 1, right? So that means it's 1 extra day more than 364. So when you count up all of these 1 extra days in the 365, and because there's 21 of them, you're going to get this math. So if you do it like here, we got 7 plus another 7 plus another 7 plus the 2 extra days for the 7 leap years is 14. There's your math again. That 35 days. You can't play with it. You could only use it. So they're able to shift numbers around and start things in January here and this and that, but they could only multiply and add and subtract within the 10,227 days, family. You have to utilize these things. They cannot. When I say cannot be gainsaid, you just have to say, you know what? I don't care about the calendar designs promoting, and this makes no sense and go away. But it can't be gainsaid. You can't prove it wrong. You can only say, well, let's go back to the Bible and see what the new moon says about the moon, and keep looking up in the sky, family. Keep. We don't have to do that. We look into Jah's words, uses mathematical count. This is very important. And let me finish off with a couple more things here. This is so beautiful. So again, let's look at Jah's first 28-year cycle of time, year 1. This is how far back I'm showing this to show you that you can go back to the first year of creation, and you can know when the Gregorian date is on the first day of creation. So what I'm going to show you, family, something that's never been kind of like told probably in the world, but it's time to sound the shofar now. You're going to get the beginning of creation, the date, and you could probably even use your clock to say this all started at 6 p.m. So let's get into it. And there's not much left. Rest of the charts, I don't really need to explain, but I want to show them to show you the perfection here. So again, this is year 1, and it's equivalent to 4,199. This is, again, going to the end. Year 7,000 is equivalent to 2,800 AD. 28 is there again, AD. And so I'm going to be looking at these first 28 years right here. You see this, where the red is? The first 28 years. Or we're going to look at, again, this is year 1, 4199 BC, equivalent up here, and we're going to focus right here. So what I'm going to get is that this is the first 28-year cycle, and I'm just going to show you the first month and the first year and give you the Gregorian equivalent of when the beginning of time happened if you're to go back and use the Gregorian calendar. Remember, the Gregorian calendar falls on Jah's calendar. It doesn't dictate it. It has to move within Jah's almanac. Okay, let's keep going. So again, I'm focusing on this year, the first year calendar, which is going to be a common year, right? Because remember, common. This is going to be, by now you should know, a sabbatical year, a minor one. A minor one, 14. 21 is minor, and 28 is major. That should be sinking in our heads. Look what even David has here. The amount of days in the 28-year cycle is 10,227 days. In the 700-year cycle, it's 255,675 days. And in the 7,000-year cycle, as we know, 2,556,750 days. Praise Jah. I know these might seem like, oh, where's the salvation talk? This is about salvation. So this is Jah's 28-year cycle from creation year 1 to year 28, or the Gregorian equivalent, year 28-year cycle from the year 4199 BC to the year 4172 BC as we count. And I'm going to go just maybe 5 minutes over, maybe. And these rest are just simple charts that'll shut this down and establish it. So as you know, again, this is the 28-year cycle. 6 common years, we have our sabbatical years. But this first year now is equivalent to year 1, 4199 BC. And then, of course, after that is year 2, and then it's 4198 BC, because the numbers go down when it comes to BC. You got all the leap years. If it's L and it's red, it's a leap year. Here it's a sabbatical year. You got everything. You have common years, you have leap years. So this is the Gregorian calendar, and on top of Jah's almanac for that first 28-year cycle for the year 4199 BC. So let's look at that month. Here it is. The beginning of creation was, so we have February 12th there, and it was the night before. So it would be Saturday night at 6 p.m., February 11th, the year 4199 BC is equivalent to year 1. And we start from 6 p.m. just to say, hey, in the beginning, there was no sun, moon, and stars. So we had 12 hours of darkness and 12 hours of light. And when we look at this almanac, this month here, right, we can see that you have your 7 days of creation. And then after that, just think about if you're counting from creation time. Well, after that 7th day is going to be the 8th day. And if you just stay in creation, you would see that the 14th day would be the Sabbath, the 21st would be a Sabbath, and the 28th would be a Sabbath. And like I said, the month Abib is 28 days long perfectly. The Passover is always going to be on the first day of the week, and then on the seventh day of the week. And I know it might be a little bit disruptive with people, because people might think that the Passover was on a Wednesday when the Messiah came, and we'll have to talk about that still. And there's a little bit of a mix-up, but just hold tight now. So again, this is just first year of the 28th, so it's a common year. Right? Creation began right here, basically February 11th, February 12th, as I said. The last day of the year right there. This is the first year of creation. Look how far back we can go. So when we look at this perpetual cycle, all I'm going to bring you through now, family, I'm going to show you, I'm going to cover the 20-year cycle, just show you. I don't have to talk about anything. I'm just going to give you the chart, because I'm going to be releasing these in a volume and everything. But again, just to show you how perfect things are. So I'm going to start from the year 1905. I'm going to go to 2100. That's in the future. Remember, we're at 2022. So that's like 78 more years in the future using the 28-year cycle. But check it out. So the title, this is 6105 or 1905. So looking at it, this is AD. So the 1900s back, just 1900, not too long ago, right? The year 1905 AD. We go through. It ends at 1932 AD. Then, of course, what would the next 28-year cycle would start off? It would start the year after 1932 would be 1933. Or the year after 6132 would be 6133. So the next year would be, if you go to the next cycle, 28-year cycle, 1933. And this goes from 1933 to 1960, or the year 6133 to 6160. You have all your leap years, your calendars, everything perfect, cannot be touched, cannot be manipulated. So let's go back here. So after 1960, what's the next year? 1961. So let's look at that 28-year cycle. 6061 or 1961 to 1988. Right? Here we are here. 1961, going all through the years. I was born in 1971, right? Someone was born in 1973 here. You can see this difference, right? So I know I was born in calendar 11. Calendar, I probably put calendar 13. I put that because I was just thinking about somebody in my family. Thought I was talking to them. But anyways, this is when I was born. So if you were born, most of us, if you're like in your 40s or so, you were born in this era, and or even younger. So, that way, a little bit younger. Let's go on. So remember, this ended at 1988 or 6188 at the bottom here. And then we're going to continue. So we got 1989. Now, this is the era that is just past, not in our era where we are now. I'm going to focus on that soon. So again, you have your 1989 going through, and those, for all those millennials or whatever, you guys were probably born, if you're in your 30s or so, you were born during these times here, or even younger, like 30s or younger in these times. Now, here we are, where we are right now in our era. So we are just finishing off year 6221, but you can see it's 2022. The year 6222 will begin in about 3 weeks, but I just put it here because it's going to be coming out soon, and I want you to be thinking ahead. So you can see it's calendar 6, and this ends at the year 2044 or 6244. And then, of course, you can go past that. You have 2045, right, to 2072, all of the years. Then you have 2073 to 2100, which, goes up again in the future, where we're at. And family, you can do this for the beginning of time forevermore. It doesn't even matter. Cannot stop, cannot shift. What are you going to do about it? You can't. All you can do is disagree with it based upon principles that maybe might be of a lack of understanding, or an adversarial thing, or I got to learn more thing, or my love worship the moon festival kind of idea, or whatever, or maybe whatever other reason I might be. Maybe I don't explain it properly. Maybe they don't like me, so they don't like the calendar. I don't even really business. All I can tell you is that it can't be gainsayed. You can only say, well, whatever. But I'd say, if I said to someone, when I say gainsay, you got to go to the math, You got to prove why March equinox is this and why the Abib is that in April and all that. And people really can't really do it, but I can prove it. We can prove February, Abib, the barley seasons, the wheat seasons, everything. I'll show you how detailed it gets. Let me just show you how this calendar works. So you're looking on your screen. We're in the year 62, coming in 6222, 2022, just coming into it. So we're in 2022, calendar 6. So this is calendar 6. I want you to focus on that. Calendar 6. If we go back, notice here again, right here, right, is calendar 6. Oh, and that's not this year. Sorry, my bad. I'm just going to go back to it. Yes, right here, we're calendar 6, right? This is for our area. Calendar 6, right, for our area. We have our sabbatical years. So we can see that the year after next year is a sabbatical year. So here's the dates for the new year and the 7 holy convocations of Jah during this present 28-year cycle. So again, just going through these dates. So these are the years from 6217 to 6244, or 2017 to 2444 AD. So what I'm going to show you is all the dates. I'm not, so you're going to learn the first day of the new year, the first day of Passover, the 7th day of Passover, the day of first fruits, the day of trumpets, the day of atonement, the day of tabernacles, the 8th day. So this is coming to the end, but I'm just going to show you these charts that are going to give you the exact day and date when all of these festivals occur, anywhere in the 28-year cycle, but in our era in particular, the 28-year cycle in our era, what I showed you before. So again, here we are, calendar 6. Here's the first day of the year, looking up top, and the first day of the week. Remember I said the year always begins on the first day of the week. Always and forever, can't change. It won't begin on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th. That calendar is a moving calendar. It's not just fixed, set almanac. So you can see we're here on this calendar. Here we're on calendar 6, right? So that this year, Abib 1 begins February 6th. Always going to be a Saturday night, so to speak, or the first day of the week. If you go across, we see it's 6222 or 22 AD. We can see that next year, the Abib is going to start February 5th. The year after that, February 11th, February 9th, 8th, 7th, 6th, 4, 3. You see how it keeps moving around because remember, the Gregorian calendar shifts days. It's going 4 times, it's 7 times 4, not 4 times 7. So on your screen is from 1, calendar 1, to the bottom, you see it says calendar 28 for this cycle, this era. Doesn't matter where you want to go in time. So let's say 2030. The year 2030 occurs 6230 February, a minor sabbatical year. Boom. It's right there, right? So again, taking a look, these are the first day of the year, the scriptural year forever in our era. Remember, I can do this for any time you want. Go back to Moses if you want. Go back to Messiah. Go before Messiah if you want. Go Maccabees time. Go to prophets time, the kings of Israel, the judges. Doesn't matter where we go. Go in way in the future. It doesn't matter. It will always be the same. So look at this is the first day of Passover and unleavened bread, and the 7th day of unleavened bread for the 28-year cycle. So we're in calendar, it says calendar 5, we're finishing calendar 5. Remember, we're in calendar 6. So Passover, the first day of Passover, Abib 15, is going to be February the 20th this coming year. The 7th day is going to be February the 26th. So again, same thing. You can see everywhere you want. This is for Passover and unleavened bread, the 1st and 7th day. But family, I got all the feasts for you. The wave sheaf offering and the first fruits offering are Pentecost. Same thing you got. From year calendar 1 to 28, you have all the dates. So this year, the wave sheaf offering is February 27th, calendar 6 we're at. That means Pentecost is April 17th. That's when people are keeping their Passover over in April. We're keeping Pentecost, right? We can go to the Day of Trumpets, the same thing, family, the exact same thing, the 28-year cycle. I'm pretty sure you're getting the idea now, right? But look at it. And these charts took time still, but they're perfect. They're accurate. It can't be moved. And like I say, it can't be gainsayed. It can only be rejected. That's about it, right? Tabernacles and the 8th day festival. So we got all 7 holy feasts, all 7 of the holy convocations, the first day of the year, forevermore, always and forever. And next week I can't wait to get in. See how I detailed out this with the 28-year cycle? It's going to be just as detailed when it comes to why we can prove February and all of that talk, right? So again, this is just 28-year cycle you're seeing. I hope you understand a little, got some understanding from this. Praise Jah and hallelujah. I thank everyone who came through this whole lesson and stuck it out. That was a lot there, and I appreciate that. I appreciate you greatly. I hope you don't even get understanding, learn more. If you have any questions, you could, on the screen, as you can say, you can email me, give me a shout or whatever it is. And just know that there's more to come. Just spare our lives and give us, life continually. By the time in about three Sabbaths, you'll have everything you need to do to get into February and keep the day right if you want to keep it. And if you're immersed in the Messiah's name, you have to be baptized to keep the Passover. If you're not baptized, well, you could just observe it, but you can't partake of the ordinance. It have to be done in order. Wow, that was a lot. I'm just taking a look in the room here. Andrew says, no gainsaying the Most High Babylon can't hide as they play with the numbers that Jah gave them, 10, 2, 2, 7, yes. Janessa says, this is great because all other calendars use the sun, moon, and stars, which Jah says not to do. Right from Genesis, it was a count, evening and morning with the first days. That's right, beautiful. That's right, sister. Japhet said, yes, that's right. We are to number, count our days. Japhet put in the scripture, Psalms 90. Remember I had that out there? Teach us to number our days. Bless up, and bless up. Yeah, man. All right. Yeah, that's it, family. So enjoy the rest of the week. I look forward to gearing up. Hey, you know what? I'll tell you something. As you see, I forgot to show the almanac. It's Purim next week. And I want to just help the item see if you want to keep Purim and kind of give gifts or link up with brethren and sisters. I just want to give you the calendar so you can see it. You could also do all the other festivals, dedication and Purim. So here we are on the 9th. Purim starts, basically it's going to start Wednesday evening, goes through to Thursday and Friday, and it's like a long weekend going right into the Sabbath. So who knows? We'll see what happens next week. I'm planning on trying to release the calendar for this coming year for next week as a gift to the brethren them. These are times when Purim is, you can read the book better. This is a good week to read it. I would usually traditionally, I'll cover some things on it. And if there is a couple of calendar information in there that I probably will cover, but I'm not going to get into the whole aspect. I usually we read it all. You can do that on your own. All right. Yeah, man. I did that, I did that. Praise Jah. Let's just give Jah thanks. All right. Let's just give Jah thanks and pray. Let us pray. Heavenly Father, Holy One of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Father, Jah, and your Son, Joshua, Yahshua, Yahusha, Jesus, our Messiah, who died for our sins, I give all thanks and praise to you always. I give thanks for life and for your calling, not to be say we're chosen, but we pray, Father, you give us your Holy Spirit that we may be chosen to be a part of your family in your heavenly kingdom. I believe in you, Jehoshua, our Savior, and I believe you came to the earth and died for our sins, and we have forgiveness of sins through you and through your shed blood for us and your sacrifice. And I pray that you continually strengthen us with your Holy Spirit of meekness, love, and kindness that you had, and increase our knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, Father, in your doctrines and in your truths. Continue to show us deep things to strengthen our faith, that we may have this strong faith to turn away from the temptations and evil in our life. I pray, Father, for everyone listening who always hears, and for the Zion Assembly greatly, that you continue to strengthen everyone, keep them in good health. Keep, Father, your word and your laws in our minds, and increase, Father, your spirit. Increase knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Open up our eyes and our ears, and bring a light to the ministry of truth that you're sharing with many people in the world, also with us as we share your calendar. Pray, Father, you just continue to strengthen us and guide us and keep us. I pray for Israel and all believers in the world, to the Israelites, the Jews, and the Gentiles. Strengthen them, help them overcome, and continually guide us to truth. I thank you for everything, and I pray through your holy name, Jehoshua, our Savior, always and forever. So be it. Praise John. All right, family. Take care. Take care. Share this video if you can. You can give me any thumbs up if you want before you leave. I'd appreciate it. That helps, get things moving out there so other people can watch these videos. So before you leave, if you're able to give a thumbs up, do so. Again, thanks for everyone. If there's no more questions or comments as of now, I'll give you about 20 seconds because I know there's like a delay. If there's any questions or comments otherwise, we're going to get ready to go. Again, be sure to check out all the videos. Study and learn. Show yourself approved unto the Most High. Blessings to everybody that are in the room, all the names and people I can't see. Thank you. One love. And enjoy the rest of the week and be good. Peace.